Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the fascinating, kind of hidden business and science behind Pakistani Basmati rice procurement. If you're in the food service industry, what we're about to talk about is absolutely going to change how you look at the raw ingredients you're buying every day. Let's kick things off with a quick visual. I want you to picture a stunning, fine dining dish of biryani. You know the one. The grains are impossibly long, distinct, just completely elegant, right? Now, contrast that with a clumpy, dense, kind of disappointing bowl of rice from a budget buffet. So, what's the actual difference between these two plates? Well, it's not just the chef's secret recipe. As we all know, customers judge food quality with their eyes long before they take that first bite. And the secret behind that visual perfection? It's actually a very strict, heavily measured commodity metric. We're going to reverse engineer this entire metric today. We'll start with the perfect plate, move on to defining broken percentage, look at kitchen consistency and operations, explore the economics and shelf life, and wrap up with a buyer decision framework to help you make the best call. All right, section 1, the perfect plate. You see, visual appeal isn't just some happy accident of culinary skill. It's actually driven by a highly specific mathematical specification. The entire reputation of long green Pakistani Basmati relies on this one crucial behavior. Individual grains literally have to remain totally distinct after cooking. When grains separate cleanly and elongate beautifully, they create this high contrast visual texture. And honestly, that specific visual texture is exactly what signals luxury to a customer, and it's what justifies those premium menu prices. But keeping those grains perfectly intact, yeah, that's a whole lot harder than it sounds. Moving on to section 2. Defining broken percentage. This brings us right to the core metric of today's explainer, broken percentage. Simply put, we're talking about the proportion of fractured grains within a specific lot of rice. And these fractures happen inevitably. You've got the aggressive processes of milling, polishing, handling, and just global transportation. But here is the truly fascinating part. A broken grain? It actually has the exact same nutritional value as a whole grain. But structurally, the appearance, the cooking behavior, and most importantly for us, the market value, all change drastically the very second that grain snaps. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer contrast between these three tiers. Look at the premium grade. This is your 1 to 2% broken spec. The visual uniformity here is stellar, which drives the absolute highest market value. Then, step down to the standard grade at 3 to 5% broken. You're still getting good uniformity there, but look all the way down at the economy grade, sitting at 10 to 25% broken. That visual uniformity drops completely off a cliff to just moderate. You can see right away how a 1% spec versus a 25% spec completely alters the foundation of your final dish. Let's head into the kitchen. Section 3, kitchen consistency and operations. So how does this actually play out when the heat is on? Think about the workflow in a bustling commercial kitchen. You wash the grains, you cook them, which fundamentally is just a process of water absorption, you hold the batch, and then you have to serve it predictably over a crazy busy service. Well, here is the operational science behind it. Perfectly whole grains absorb water gradually and uniformly. But broken grains, because their fractured surfaces expose the inner starchy core, they soak up moisture much, much faster. So when you've got mixed grain sizes sitting in a single pot, you're going to get wildly uneven cooking results. And when we look at starch release, the extremes become super obvious. At 1 to 2% broken, starch release is incredibly low. But as we move over to that 15% broken mark, starch release spikes to high. And all that excess starch, it acts exactly like glue. It causes the grains to stick together, giving you this dense, clumpy batch of rice. In a commercial kitchen, this totally ruins predictability. A clumpy batch means inconsistent plates, incredibly frustrated chefs, and ultimately a whole lot of expensive food waste. Nobody wants that. Let's zoom out a bit. Section 4, economics and shelf life. Those microscopic grain fractures don't just affect the chef's pot, they actually impact the entire global market. Take the UK market, for example. They prioritize high-end presentation, so they heavily demand those 1 to 5% low broken rates. But look at the GCC catering sector in the Middle East. Mass catering operations over there are purchasing 5 to 15% broken specifications. And that's not a mistake. They are making a highly calculated choice, deliberately balancing decent visual quality with serious cost efficiency for massive volumes. Beyond regional preferences, there is another massive economic factor at play here, and it all comes down to this number right here, 18 to 24. Premium and standard grades, meaning anything under that 5% broken mark, will consistently deliver 18 to 24 months of shelf life when they're properly stored. That is a massive, massive window for your inventory management. But why does that window shrink so drastically for economy grades? Well, it comes right back to the physical anatomy of the grain. Broken grains expose far more of their internal surface area, and because of this high moisture exposure, they are just way more vulnerable to deterioration sitting in a warehouse. In fact, if you are storing 10 to 25% economy grade rice under poor conditions, you are literally going to lose up to 6 months of viable shelf life compared to those intact premium grains. Finally, bringing it all together in Section 5, the Buyer Decision Framework. Now we reach the most actionable part of our explainer today. How do you actually map all this data to your specific business? Well, this framework makes it incredibly simple. If you are operating in fine dining or a premium hotel, your target is that 1 to 2% mark. Casual restaurants, you should aim for 3 to 5%. Catering companies need the commercial viability of 5 to 10%, while food processors can totally leverage the 10 to 25% economy grades. So the crucial point is this: you have to stop looking at raw commodity costs in a vacuum and start strategically buying for your exact operational needs. Because at the end of the day, every single rice order is an ultimate balancing act between two massive forces: presentation quality versus procurement cost. Getting a 1% broken grade requires rice mills to invest heavily in multiple stages of sorting and advanced optical machinery, which, of course, drives up your procurement cost. But what you are buying isn't just rice. You are buying premium perception, absolute kitchen consistency, and the power to price your menu higher with total, absolute confidence. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Which broken percentage will define your next plate? Take a hard, honest look at your current procurement strategy. Are you maybe overpaying for a premium spec that your bulk operation doesn't even need? Or on the flip side, are you sacrificing your restaurant's hard-earned reputation just to save a few pennies on an economy grade that ends up clumping in the pan? The secret math behind the perfect plate is entirely in your hands now. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and I really hope this empowers your next major purchasing decision.